Hello YouTube, Happy Christian here. It is time for the part 2 of the Predestination mid-study video. Let's finish up what we started. So, without further ado, we go back to Romans chapter 9. And my goal, I kind of wanted to remind everybody here, because I feel like I didn't do as good of a job as I should have on the last video. My goal is to basically try to play devil's advocate. So I'm trying to be as biased against what I actually believe is possible so that I can't be accused of being unfair. And we're going to look at the subject of predestination. And I'm not trying to even say that I'm so convinced that I can't have my mind changed. Because at the end of the day, I may change my mind about things when I study these things out with you guys. So, but what I'm trying to say is that right now I am biased against predestination based on my past experience and study. So, in order to be fair, I need to be biased in favor of predestination in doing this study so that I can be balanced, I guess. That's kind of my logic here. So, in the spirit of doing that, I thought it would be good to go back over verse 11 because I think that a pro-predestination person would not want to skip over verse 11 in particular. So it says here, "For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth." So it's very tempting if I am in favor of predestination to say, okay, look at this verse, people. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what you do. Not of works. Works mean nothing. What I do is irrelevant. Therefore, free will is irrelevant. So, I could see that being tempting. But before we make that jump, before we do that, there's one important thing I think we need to make sure we're doing when we're studying this chapter out. Because it's good to look at the big picture. So the first question we have to ask ourselves, I think, is what is going on in the chapter? Because it's easy to have an assumption in our minds about what is actually happening in the chapter. So is what is being talked about in the chapter how people are saved or lost? Is that what's going on here? And I got to be honest, if we're reading chapter 9, starting in verse 1, I think it's very clear to see that the subject on the writer's mind is not how individuals are saved or lost. It's something far different. It's actually a much bigger picture. We're talking about a nation here. We're talking about Israel. We're talking about a country, a political system, maybe even more than that, a religious system. We're talking about much more than just an individual's salvation, if I'm understanding this chapter right. So if I'm being biased in favor of predestination, but still trying to see the big picture, I actually cannot use verse 11 to automatically say, okay, this means that the way a person is saved is decided by God before birth, and that if you're not saved, that means that you were never supposed to be. I can't use this verse to do that. And actually, the very next verse kind of reinforces that. It was said unto her, this is verse 12 now, continuing from verse 11. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So obviously what we're talking about right now is Jacob and Esau. And I can prove this obviously because if we go back to verse 9, for this is the word of promise, at this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by her father Isaac, for the children being not yet born. So we are talking about we are talking about Esau and Jacob specifically. And I base that off the fact that verse 12 says, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. We are talking specifically about two people, not humanity in general, if I'm understanding this correctly. And I'm saying this from an unbiased and actually still trying to be biased in favor of predestination, but yet trying to be fair and look at the big picture here. So I cannot use this verse by itself. I need more proof if I want to be able to put a slam dunk on this and say, okay, free will people, you're toast. So we're going to see if we can find it. And I'm willing to be open to the possibility too. I'm not so closed off myself personally that it's impossible to think that it could happen. So let's go on. We ended with verse 13 last video, and I think we went over that thoroughly. We cross-referenced that with Malachi. I still don't think even that verse is enough based on the fact that we cross-referenced it. And we got more to the story. And again, if you're wondering what I'm talking about and haven't watched the previous video, please do so. So let's continue. Verse 14. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. Now, pay special attention to verse 16 here. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. So, again, very tempting. You want to say, oh, slam dunk, you free will people are history now. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think we can say that. So why do I insist that we can't make that claim just yet? Because we can actually cross-reference verse 15 of chapter 9 of Romans. We can cross-reference this with Exodus chapter 33, verse 19. So let's go there. Exodus 33, 19. But actually, for the sake of getting the whole picture here, let's actually go all the way back to verse 12 so that we are getting the big picture here and not just one verse. So starting with verse 12 of Exodus chapter 33, and if I said Ezekiel, please forgive me, it's Exodus chapter 33, verse 12. And Moses said unto the Lord, See, thou sayest unto me, Bring up this people, and thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, show me now thy way, that I may know thee, that I may find grace in thy sight. And consider that this nation is thy people. And he said, My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And he said unto him, If thy presence go not with me, carry us not up hence. For wherein shall it be known here that I and thy people have found grace in thy sight? Is it not in that thou goest with us? So shall we be separated, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth. And the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name. And he said, I beseech thee, show me thy glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before thee, and I will proclaim the name of the Lord before thee, and will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. So let's kind of look at this idea here that we're looking at. So right away, I think this is obvious. God definitely seems to show more mercy to some people than others. I don't think we can not say that here. Because God specifically says in verse 17, And the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight. So it seems like, based on this statement here, that some people find grace in the Lord's sight and some people do not. Now, I don't know exactly how that works. I'll be honest and say that. I don't know. And I'm not going to come to any super quick conclusions about it either without, a good, decent study. But what I can say here is that I would be willing to make the jump here and say, okay, no doubt about it, some people get more mercy than other people. But does that automatically mean that this passage is trying to say that some people are saved and some people are lost, all based on what God chooses for them in the past before they even get to have any kind of chance? I cannot use this passage to say that. If I'm trying to be biased in favor of predestination, but yet being honest here, I can't use it for that. It's impossible to use that for that. It's not enough for me. It's not the slam dunk. But what this definitely is saying, and I don't think there's any getting around this fact, this is definitely saying for sure that it is God who shows the mercy. I can't make God show me any more or less mercy. Well, let me take that back. I can't say that either. But what I will say is that, as the verse says, it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. At the end of the day, any success I have as a Christian, I can't give myself the credit. Because if I did, I'd be arrogant for doing so. So, I am going to be completely transparent on that and say that there is no getting around at least that much interpretation here. However, again, it's too big of a jump to try to make it say that people are saved or lost based on God's decision before they are born. It's you if you're trying to if a person is trying to say that much with this much information, you're making too big of a jump. I don't think it can be done with only this much. We need more, something more definite. And again, let me emphasize this too. I don't think we should be reading this in the first place to try to prove or disprove anything. I think we should be just letting the Bible speak for itself and letting our conclusions follow whatever the Bible is saying, and be willing to accept correction and the fact that maybe we're wrong. We shouldn't be so self-assured that we're right about everything. Nevertheless, I think it's more interesting in this case, for me at least, to try to do something a little bit different and try to be biased against myself here. But I cannot yet say that there is a legitimate problem for free will people just yet. Although I can say that if somebody tries to act like they somehow are able to, of themselves, make any real difference, I would say that person is arrogant and that they don't understand what's really going on here. Because without God's grace, I'm sorry, but Satan could cut through me like a red hot butter knife through butter. It wouldn't even be trouble. Only God's protection keeps us safe, pure and simple. And anybody trying to lessen God's role is making a mockery of our Lord. And I will go on the record saying that. Okay, let's go on. How much time do we have? Wow, time went by quick. Okay. Oh, man, we're getting to the really good part now. Okay. I'm going to quit the video for now. It'll have to be a part 3. I bet for those of you who support Predestination right now that you're like, dude, you haven't got to the best part yet. And it's like, and I know, but you'll have to give me another video because what I'm using to upload videos is very slow, and anything more than like 12 or 13 minutes is really pushing it. So I'm sorry. I hope you guys have a great day. Happy Christian out. Talk to you guys later. Bye.